everybody, and welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'll be doing a 2024 election prediction, or not a prediction, sort of like an interesting Republican primary thing, with Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Sorry if this is a bit more cut off than typical. I closed like my Google Chrome tab or something, and now it's like all it's really strange. I'm gonna turn what's up. But for whatever reason now, it like doesn't want to let me open my screen opener over my map, so apologies there. That's kind of weird, so sorry about that. That this is mostly cut off. Anyways, let's get started with this. I believe this is the third one of these that I've done. Start off with Nevada. I'm gonna give this to Trump lean. I think he has significantly more rural appeal than Pence, and I mean, like, yes, I would say that Trump is one of the strongest Republicans for Hispanic and Latino voters. I think that a lot of people tend to make the argument that Hispanic and Latino voters are shifting to the right, and they aren't necessarily. Biden was not exactly the best Democrat for him, and they tend to shift towards the incumbent. But regardless, Trump would do better than Pence, and he's definitely going to do better with rural voters. Arizona, I'm actually going to give this to Pence lean. I think he has more appeal to traditional conservatives, like significantly more appeal. Maybe tilt, but I'm going to give it to him lean. Trump, I'm going to give both New Mexico and Colorado. Colorado will probably be closer to being tilt than New Mexico. But in New Mexico, Trump's going to do better with Hispanic and Latino voters and do better with oil workers. Colorado, he's going to do better with rural voters. He probably won't do as well in the suburbs. Whereas Pence will probably do better in the suburbs, and probably I could see him definitely doing better with white voters. In Texas, not white voters in Texas, maybe white voters in Texas, I doubt it. Texas, I'm going to give it to Trump lean. He has significantly more rural appeal and more Hispanic and Latino appeal. Pence would stop the suburban shift by a little, but it wouldn't matter much, especially as the suburbs will continue to shift. Florida, I'm going to give this to Trump too. I think they're actually both fairly similar. I think that Trump has less appeal to older white voters to suburbanites, but significantly more Hispanic and Latino appeal. They're fairly similar in the state. This could easily go to Pence. Georgia, I'm going to give to Trump lean. Pence is horrible with black voters, and he's pretty weak with white rural voters. Trump is strong for white rural voters, and I mean, like, they're both weak with black voters, but I think that Pence and Trump are different types of weak with black voters, if that even makes sense. It's much in the way that Pence and Kristi Noem, for example, are weak for white rural voters. Noem is weak in the sense that she's just going to struggle, whereas I guess with Noem and Pence and rural voters, Noem is weak in the sense that she's just going to struggle to get a platform and to turn out rural voters, whereas Pence is just generally disliked. I think that Pence is just going to be generally disliked among black voters, whereas Trump, there's going to be a lot of anti-Trump black turnout, which, I mean, like, it's going to help the Democrats regardless, especially if it's someone with large appeal to black voters, somebody like Joe Biden, somebody like Kamala Harris, somebody like Stacey Abrams in Georgia, if we're doing Georgia specifically, but obviously it's highly unlikely that she and Trump are ever in a matchup. But they are very good candidates for black voters, and especially against someone like Trump, who's going to get a lot of anti-Trump black turnout, whereas Pence is just going to do abysmal. But either way, Trump's going to get it lean. So, yeah, I mean, like, either way, there's still probably going to be anti-GOP turnout. And just in one circumstance, it's just not going to be much. It's just going to be people just generally disliking Pence as opposed to people turning out heavily against him, whereas they would do that with Trump. Trump also gets North Carolina lean. I'm going to say that he actually carries this by more than Georgia. He's going to do better with rural voters. Pence won't. They're both not going to do very well with black voters. Pence is not going to do very well with black voters in the suburbs. And then Trump, neither of them are, but still, it's going to hurt Pence probably, especially when in a lot of other states, one of his biggest strengths is the fact that he has more suburban appeal than Trump, but Trump's also going to be better with the working class. Virginia, I'm going to give the Trump lean. I think that Pence's only really shining spot in Virginia would be that he has more appeal in the D.C. suburbs. Trump's still going to get pretty good rural turnout, and they're both, once again, abysmal for black voters. Nebraska's second. I'm going to give it to Pence lean. I think he has more appeal to voters in, like, white voters in white majority cities. And I think he has more suburban appeal. Iowa, I'm gonna give to Trump likely. Pence is just so weak for white rural voters. And especially with Trump having enough of the populace to appeal, I'm gonna give it to him likely. Um, Trump gets Minnesota lean. I think Pence is gonna do less awful in the suburbs, which will keep it lean. Um, but other than that, he might do better in white majority cities. Wisconsin, I have Trump lean, maybe a high lean, low likely. He's going to do better with white rural voters and better with the white working class, whereas Pence, they're both going to struggle with black voters. Pence will do less terrible in the suburbs, though. Michigan, fairly same deal. Same thing with Pennsylvania. Honestly, same thing with Ohio, just significantly more to the right. So, well, Ohio's kind of close, but either way, Trump's going to carry them all lean. It's a fairly similar explanation for a lot of them. Um, New Hampshire. Actually, let's start off with Maine. I'm gonna give it to Trump tilt. I think that he's gonna do better. Or I think that they're very similar with the. I think they're gonna have similar appeal to white working class voters or to white rural college educated voters, but for completely different reasons. I think that Trump has a lot of that populist appeal. And we saw it in 2016. Whereas Pence, I think, has more potential to be somebody like Mitt Romney or George W. Bush, where they have this moderate or more moderate, traditional, cool-headed conservatism to them, which could do very well with white rural college educated voters. But I think that Trump has enough appeal for Maine second to carry it. Till and Maine second, I'm gonna give it to him likely. He just has significantly more populist appeal than Pence. New Hampshire, I'm just gonna give it to Trump still. It's really close. I was really not certain. I wasn't even necessarily going back and forth. I was just looking at who could possibly win it. Because it's really hard to tell. But I'm gonna give it to Trump. I mean, he did do so well in 2016 in New Hampshire that kind of gave it to me, got me to give it to him. But at this point, it's a toss up, and I'm giving it to Trump. So I don't have toss ups, because it made a tiny bit of sense. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please comment your suggestions down below. I think I'm going to be working on an election night very soon that I was going to work on like months and months ago, and I just delayed it. So yeah, I'm hoping to get working on that. This is a bit random, but now that I've closed my Google Chrome tab, I'm not even certain what was up with it, but now, like, I think I have two Chromes. I have, like, a Google Chrome and a Google Chrome 2, and now, like, I don't have any of my, like, stuff where, like, autofills when I Google search, which is annoying. Anyways, random side note. Also, Atlanta United won today, so that's fun. We beat Toronto. Anyways, yeah. Hope to see you all in my next video, guys. Bye!